When Zaina Kofi married into the Mutombo family, the wedding was grand. Music, cameras, smiles. But none of it followed her inside the house. The Mutombo mansion was modern, glass walls, marble floors, quiet luxury. Yet the air inside felt heavy, unwelcoming. From the first day, Mama Mutombo watched Zaina closely, not with curiosity, with suspicion. "You people from small homes never understand class," she said casually, correcting Zaina's posture while serving tea. Zaina nodded silently. Her father-in-law, Mr. Mutombo, never looked at her directly. When he did, his eyes were cold. "She walks like someone unsure of herself," he muttered once. "Poverty teaches bad habits." Zaina heard it. She always heard it. But she stayed quiet. Before this story begins, stop scrolling. If you believe silent suffering deserves a voice, subscribe to this channel, share this story with someone who understands pain, and listen carefully, because this house will teach you how cruelty hides behind wealth. Because in this house, silence was survival.
Zaina worked from sunrise to night. Not because she had to, because she was expected to. Mama Mutombo inspected everything. The floors, the meals, even Zaina's tone of voice. "Why do you speak so softly? Do you think humility hides stupidity?" Zaina's hands trembled as she folded clothes. Mr. Mutombo passed by one afternoon and stopped. "Is this how you iron?" he asked sharply. Zaina tried to explain. He didn't listen. "Girls like you should remain grateful," he said. "Marriage into this family already lifted you above your level." Those words followed her all day. She began doubting herself, her worth, her presence, her right to exist there.
One evening, guests arrived unexpectedly. Mama Mutombo whispered angrily, "Don't embarrass us." Zaina wore a simple dress, clean, neat, modest. Mama Mutombo laughed quietly. "Is that what your village calls elegance?" In front of everyone. Mr. Mutombo added without shame, "This is why mixing classes is dangerous." Zaina felt her chest tighten. No one defended her. The guests smiled awkwardly. Humiliation settled deep into her bones. That night, Zaina cried silently, pressing her face into the pillow so no one would hear. She told herself, "Tomorrow will be better." But tomorrow was worse. Zaina was no longer allowed to sit freely in the living room. "Stand when elders speak," Mama Mutombo ordered. Her phone usage was questioned, her movements monitored. "Where were you? Why were you late? Who were you talking to?" Mr. Mutombo once said, "A girl from nothing must be watched carefully." That sentence broke something inside her. She was married, but treated like property. Every mistake, real or imagined, became proof that she didn't belong. And slowly, Zaina stopped defending herself. Days passed. Insults became routine. Orders replaced conversations. Mama Mutombo once said openly, "If my son had listened, this house would be peaceful." Mr. Mutombo nodded. Zaina stood there, holding a tray, her arms aching. She wanted to scream. Instead, she lowered her head. That was the moment she realized. This house did not want her love. It wanted her obedience. And so she became quiet. But silence doesn't mean weakness. It means waiting. Something in the Mutombo house began to feel off. Not loudly, not suddenly, just wrong. Mr. Mutombo still sat in his usual chair every evening, tablet in hand, posture stiff with pride. But Zaina noticed small things others ignored. The way his breathing paused between sentences, how his hand lingered on the armrest before standing, the silence that followed his coughs. Mama Mutombo noticed too, but she dismissed it. "Men his age complain for attention," she said once, adjusting her jewelry. "Strength is discipline." Zaina said nothing. She had learned that concern from her was often taken as interference. Yet unease settled inside her chest. This house had taught her to be alert, not for care, but for danger. One afternoon, Zaina was serving lunch when Mr. Mutombo suddenly stopped eating. His spoon hovered in the air. For a moment, the room froze. Zaina stepped forward instinctively. "Sir, should I get water?" Mama Mutombo's eyes flashed. "Did anyone ask you to speak?" Mr. Mutombo waved his hand dismissively. "I'm fine." But his voice lacked authority. Mama Mutombo turned to Zaina sharply. "Don't create problems where none exist." Zaina stepped back. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but frustration. She wasn't trying to challenge them. She was trying to help. But in this house, even concern was seen as rebellion.
Days passed. Mr. Mutombo began spending more time seated, walking slower, talking less. Business calls shortened. Mama Mutombo covered it up with pride. "He works too hard," she told visitors. "He doesn't rest because he's strong." Zaina watched quietly as he struggled to rise from his chair one evening. She moved toward him. Mama Mutombo blocked her with a glance. "Leave him." Mr. Mutombo straightened painfully, forcing dignity into his posture. "I don't need help from someone like her," he said, though sweat beaded on his forehead. The words cut deep. Zaina lowered her gaze, but inside her something shifted. This wasn't arrogance anymore. It was danger. It happened late at night. The house was silent when a heavy sound echoed down the corridor. Zaina woke instantly. She stepped out carefully. Mr. Mutombo was seated on the floor near his room, his back against the wall, chest rising unevenly, face pale. Mama Mutombo stood frozen, fear fighting pride. "This is not the time for panic," she said, though her voice trembled. Zaina knelt beside him. "Please," she said softly, firmly, "he needs help now." Mama Mutombo snapped, "Stay where you are." But Mr. Mutombo's eyes met Zaina's. For the first time, they were not cold. They were afraid. Mr. Mutombo's breathing worsened. Mama Mutombo hesitated, calling doctors, calling drivers, calling people who were not there. Zaina didn't hesitate. She supported his head, kept him upright, spoke calmly. "Sir, breathe slowly, don't fight it." Her voice carried no anger, no accusation, only urgency. Mama Mutombo watched, torn between pride and fear. Minutes felt endless. By the time help arrived, one thing was clear. If Zaina had stayed silent, if she had obeyed like always, this night would have ended differently. As Mr. Mutombo was taken away, his hand tightened briefly around Zaina's sleeve. Not words, not apology, but acknowledgement. And in that small gesture, the balance of the house began to change. The hospital corridor smelled of disinfectant and fear, not the kind money could erase. Mr. Mutombo lay on the narrow bed, machines humming softly beside him. The expensive suit he wore earlier had been replaced with a thin hospital gown. For the first time, wealth meant nothing. Mama Mutombo sat stiffly on a chair, her back straight, her face tight. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. Zaina stood at a distance, hands folded, heart racing. Doctors moved in and out, speaking in calm but serious tones. "Why wasn't he brought earlier?" one of them asked. The question hung in the air. Mama Mutombo looked away.
Zaina felt something heavy settle in her chest. Not victory, not satisfaction, just sadness. Because this pain could have been avoided. A doctor finally stopped in front of Mama Mutombo. Stress, exhaustion, untreated warning signs, he said plainly. These don't happen overnight. Mama Mutombo's fingers tightened around her purse. He said he was fine, she replied defensively. The doctor nodded. People often do. Families must notice when they don't. Zaina felt Mama Mutombo's gaze flick toward her, just for a second. Later, a nurse approached quietly. She was the one who helped him breathe properly before arrival, the nurse said, nodding toward Zaina. That likely stabilized him. Mama Mutombo froze. She didn't respond, but the silence was different now. It wasn't power, it was discomfort. Mr. Mutombo regained consciousness slowly. His eyes opened, unfocused at first. Then they landed on Zaina. She stood still, unsure whether to step forward or disappear. His voice came out weak. You stayed. It wasn't a question. Zaina nodded slightly. Mama Mutombo shifted in her seat. Mr. Mutombo closed his eyes briefly. Pride battled something new inside him. Recognition. He didn't apologize. Not yet. But he didn't look away either. And in that house, that alone meant everything. When they returned home days later, the Mutombo mansion felt different. Quieter. Heavier. Mr. Mutombo moved slowly now, his presence subdued. Mama Mutombo watched Zaina carefully, not with cruelty, not with warmth, but with awareness. Orders were fewer. Insults absent. Zaina noticed the change but didn't trust it. Years of silence don't disappear overnight. She continued her routine, steady and respectful. But something inside her had shifted. She was no longer invisible. One evening, Zaina was arranging the table when Mr. Mutombo spoke. Leave that, he said gently. Sit. The word stunned the room. Zaina hesitated. Mama Mutombo looked up sharply but said nothing. Zaina sat slowly. Mr. Mutombo spoke without looking at her. Strength is not ignoring pain, he said quietly. It is recognizing who stood when others didn't. Mama Mutombo swallowed. No apology was spoken, but respect had entered the room. And once respect arrives, nothing ever returns to how it was. Mama Mutombo changed first. Not loudly, not proudly, quietly. She began watching Zaina the way one studies something unfamiliar. Not to criticize, to understand. One morning she noticed Zaina sitting alone after finishing her work, hands resting calmly in her lap. No phone, no complaint, just patience. Mama Mutombo realized something unsettling. This girl had endured what others would have rebelled against, and still remained kind. That realization disturbed her more than anger ever could. At lunch, Mama Mutombo did something unthinkable. She said, Zaina. Not sharply, not dismissively, just her name. Zaina looked up, surprised. Sit with us. The words were simple, but the weight behind them was heavy. Mr. Mutombo watched silently. No objections, no pride. Zaina took her seat. For the first time since her marriage, she wasn't standing while others ate. No celebration followed, just acceptance. And sometimes acceptance heals deeper than apologies. Visitors came one afternoon. Business partners, friends. Mama Mutombo spoke casually. Zaina has been managing the house exceptionally. The room went still. Zaina felt her chest tighten. Mr. Mutombo added calmly, she is family. No explanations, no stories, just truth. The same people who once ignored her now nodded politely. Zaina didn't smile. She didn't need to. Her dignity had already spoken. Mr. Mutombo recovered steadily, but he was different, less commanding, more aware. One evening, he said quietly, "I mistook silence for weakness." Zaina listened. "I was wrong." The words weren't dramatic. They didn't need to be, because change isn't loud. It's consistent. From that day, decisions included her. Her voice mattered, not because she demanded it, but because she earned it through character. Years later, people spoke of the Mutombo house differently, not just as a place of wealth, but as a home that learned humility. Zaina never reminded them of the past. She didn't need to. Her journey carried a lesson stronger than revenge. Kindness is not weakness, silence is not submission, and respect cannot be bought. It is awakened. She entered that house as someone underestimated. She remained as someone undeniable. And that is how quiet strength changes everything. If this story touched you, remember, how you treat those with less power reveals more about you than all your wealth combined.